Yo guys, what is up? It's Teach here coming at you again with another video, and I am here to show you the speed version on how to get yourself these guys behind me, just super dinos in general, massive color combinations, some awesome stats in general, and just, awesome overall tames. Now, I will tell you straight up ahead of time, this is going to be the fast version, so I am going to skip over a lot of information, examples, and all that stuff. If you want to see the fast version, look in the link below, and I'll show, not the fast, but the long version that'll kind of like walk you through step by step and make you a master of breeding an arc. Just click on that link below and it'll show you like that version. But this is like the speed version on how to get through it really quickly and kind of just covering, the important, valuable stuff. I'll kind of like hit little points along the way. Now, I've been using dodos, and these are literally the ones that I've been using in my example videos for the breeding and mutation guide. You are going to notice that these are walking around and they have different color combinations on them. And that is because I started all of my dodos out at level 1. You're going to notice some are level 9, some are level 7, some are level 11. And I've just been slowly breeding them. It took me about, I have increased rates and stuff like that, but it's taken me about 30 minutes to get these dodos up to level 11. Which has basically given me stats from zeros across the board to something that looks like this. So basically we've got increased stats across the board. Now, that is something that is not that hard to do. I know it seems difficult and a lot of people get like scared away from it, but let's talk about the variables real quick, because basically this thing is just a combination of numbers, variables, and literally just 7 different numbers that you can use, one for each stat level. Now, if I go into this, you'll notice there's 1 for health, 1 for stamina, oxygen, food, weight, melee, and movement speed. There are a total of 7 different variables that you can have in order to get a mutation. Now, each one of those stats has a possibility to get a mutation as long as you don't go above the 20 mutations marker. Now I'll go ahead and show you what I mean by that. Now on the left and right hand side, you're going to have X mutations over 20. And this side has 6, this one has 7. As soon as you hit 20 on one side, that side is no longer capable of producing a mutation roll. And if you hit 20 on both sides, that means that you no longer can get a mutation and your stats have maxed out at whatever they're going to be. Now, what does that really mean? So how mutations work is something you need to understand real quick first. 1, mutations happen after the roll of stats. So when you have 2 breeding dinosaurs, or dodos in this case, you are going to have, for lack of a better word, they're going to combine their stats. So there's a 55% chance they get a higher stat. So for health, let's say one has 1 point and the other one has 0 points. There's a 55% chance they roll that 1. The roll of the points is going to happen before the roll of mutation. ARC is just a program, so how it works is it quite literally just takes the numbers and puts them together. Now, when I say it rolls the numbers for the health first, so if the male has a 0 health and the female has a 1 health, there's a 55% chance you end up with a higher health, okay? After it does that roll, what it'll then do is roll for mutations, and the chance of you getting a mutation is give or take 3% per side. So you've got about somewhere between, and a lot of people argue about this, 3 and 5% chance of getting a mutation on a dinosaur, no matter how many times you actually end up doing anything with it, which is important to note because you will end up having mutations in the long run. It just takes some time usually. So that's how it works. Let's talk about the next thing now. So there are useless stats. Now, each dino has a set of useless stats. For example, if you're having a Triceratops and you're leveling up its stamina, there's literally 0 value in it for a Triceratops because it's a soaking dinosaur. Only try and get health stats. If you're working on a dodo, I don't know what you'd want to do with the dodo, but whatever stat you're focusing on, focus on those first and then focus on everything else. Now, things that affect the stats are your imprint on it, the dino specifics, and there are certain stats on dinos like speed or melee damage for Diplodocus or just stats in general that don't count on some dinosaurs, so keep that in mind. Now, again, you have a 55% chance of getting the highest stat, so there is a pretty good chance that you end up... I'm going to demolish this foundation so they can escape. Let's just pick it up. Okay. That's a lot of dodos. All right, so let's go ahead and show you what it looks like here when you actually pop a whole bunch of eggs at once. Now, there's a good chance we end up getting a color mutation somewhere in these eggs. I don't know what the probability will be, but there's a good chance. Let's see if we get any cool colors out of this. My goodness, that is like chaos at its finest. You can see some blue beaks, some green wings, some purple heads, some pink heads. I'm not seeing really much else. There's some red in there as well. It might be dead, but anyways, as you can see, you are bound to get some color mutations based on a 3% chance. So if you hatch 30 eggs, one of those eggs will have it. The other ones will not. Now, how a mutation works. If you have a dino, let's just say this one's for example right here. Please come back here. Thank you. You will basically have, let's go ahead and zoom in on this guy, 4. So you see he's got 0 everything and then 4 on the health. In increments of 2, when you get a mutation, let's say you get a mutation in health, it'll go up 2 points. So if this guy was to get a mutation in health, he would go from 4 to 6 points. Or if he was to get a mutation in weight, he would go from 0 to 2 points. It'll go up 2 every single time. You'll also add a new color every time they get a mutation, and it'll go +1 on his mutation counter, which can be seen through the ancestors marker, and instead of 2, this would have 3, or instead of 6, this would have 7. And that is how you get the mutation counter to work. Each parent rolls individually of the other one, so if this one was to roll and this one was to roll, you would have a 3% chance on either side to get a mutation. If this one is above 20, though, you cannot get a mutation on this side, but you can get one from this side, so keep that in mind. What you want to do in order to maximize your dino capability is find your highest male dino, for this case in my dodos around here. My highest was this male breeder, which had 4220002. And breed them with any female that you have that is lower than 20 mutations, and it'll give you a chance of getting a mutation, about 1 in 30, give or take. Now, what we're trying to do is you have 2 piles inevitably. One is your breeder pile, where you've got all your breeding females and your breeder male, and the other one is all your max levels, where you're trying to breed alphas that you can actually use in the world around you. I know there's a little bit of lag, because I have so many dodos that are built up right now. Goodness gracious. I'm going to do one more little dodo spree. Look at that. That is chaos at its finest. And they're just going to keep hatching eggs in there. No thank you. Alright. Let's see what this happens here. Any cool colors? Ooh, I got a purple in there. This is some orange heads. That green is super cool. That's a really neat green color. And some blues. Now those colors do indicate that I did get a couple of mutations in there. I don't know. That's a cool looking one. I don't know what they are specifically, because I don't want to go sit in there and just listen to those things whine for a long period of time. However, I could just take in, you know, big ol' Rex here and just slaughter and see how that works. And that's chaos at its finest. Okay, so as you can see, I had a lot of dodos. And I think that's probably enough. I'll let him do his job over there. Let's go ahead and just whistle neutral. Now, one way to breed these is basically you're going to combine all the stats into one alpha male, and in the long run you're going to end up getting yourself a bunch of alphas that you can breed for the stats, and then you have a breeder pile like you see over there that you're basically going to breed in order to get the best stat combinations. Now, let's keep going. If you have a male that is not better than the one you are currently breeding, it is called an FFA, which basically just means get it away, throw it away and kill it, or if you are going to raise it, make sure you're using it in the wild, because it is not to be bred with anything else. And males are useless. Females just increase your ability to have more eggs, so those are good things unless they are above that 20 mutation combination. Now, just a quick reminder, there is no right way to go about breeding. None. When somebody tells you this is the best way to do it, or this is the worst way to do it, or this is right and this is wrong, they're just idiots. Don't listen to them. I have tried so many different ways and so many different methods that there are wrong ways where someone's like breeding just 2 dinosaurs to try and saying they're going to get something, but there is no perfect way or there is no better way. You are bound to eventually get some mutations as long as you are hatching enough eggs, and it will happen eventually where you do get yourself access to some eggs. So don't let anyone tell you there's a wrong way, because there is, but it's not like there's a perfectly wrong way. As long as you have less than 20 mutations in your breeding, there is still a 3% chance. Now, you can increase your chances by increasing the number of dinos you breed, but for the most part, there is no wrong way to do this. There's good ways where you increase the number of females and 1 alpha male, but there's still technically not a perfect way to do this. Last thing that I want to talk about in this quick, shortened version of what we're seeing here is, yes, you have stats on each dino individually, and I can go up to each individual dino and see the randomized stats. And if you have a male what you're trying to do is make the male the one with all the best stats, and the females, if you can, have good stats that are less than 20 mutations, but it doesn't matter. So have one breeder male is what people typically do. And then outside of that, it doesn't matter a whole heck of a lot. Now, if you do, now this is a little trick that a lot of alpha tribes unofficial use. Now, it's very uncommon to have these anymore because people get raided so often. There is such a thing as negative mutations. Now, what you would have to do in order to get negative mutations is breed brother in, I know this sounds weird, breed brother and sister dinos like this right here. This is a perfect example. See how he's already got 35 even though he's gone through 8 generations? If you breed brother and sister dinosaurs, it's going to exponentially increase the number of mutations they have. So if you have one dinosaur and another, one sister, one brother, and they both have 1 mutation each, double it in the next generation to give you 2, double it again, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, and eventually you're going to get to a point where ARC cannot handle the number of mutations that have occurred, even though there's technically not a mutation, it's just a multiplier thing, and you'll end back up at -1. Now, -1 is a good thing because if you breed a dinosaur that has -1 mutations and end up getting a dinosaur out of it, what is going to happen is you are going to actually end up with a 0 number instead of a 1. So you can basically have an unlimited number of mutations and just continue to reset them with a -1 dinosaur. So you can literally reset your entire breeding line without starting from scratch. And a lot of people don't realize that, but mind you, if you have to go through, I think it's like 32 combinations of dinosaurs before you can actually end up with a new breeding pair of dinosaurs that has -1. So for some dinosaurs, that's not possible, like a Giganotosaurus, where it takes 11 days, I think, total. You're looking at 300, so it would take you a year to do that for Gigas, and that's something that's too long. For something like Dodos, it would still take you 2 months. So it's not something that people use very commonly on official servers because it takes so long, but on an unofficial server, if you've got a really increased breeding rate, you can do this in like less than a month, give or take. And it might be worth your time to have -1 on your mutation line so you can breed in those females with all of your stuff, and it might be quite useful for you. So, anyways, this is literally just me doing the quick version, telling you the basic facts about breeding. If you'd rather have the long version, I'll tag that video below, but this is, again, just me going over all the basic stuff that you need to know, like the important things, like 20 mutations is the limit before you cannot get another one. Variables is literally what this game runs off of, so it's just numbers. The numbers cannot change. They're built to be the same no matter what you do. And when it comes to dinos, maximizing your possibilities is always a good thing. So don't just have one breeding pair. Try and maximize it and have as many females with one male as you can. There's only a 3% chance of mutation, so keep that in mind. And it looks like that's just pure chaos. I'm going to stay away from that as my Giganotosaurus just, goes to town on all of that. But it takes time, but it is worth it in the long run because imprint plus increased mutated dinos, not only do they look cool, but they can have much higher stats than anything else somebody would have in the wild. So, hopefully this helps you out, and other than that, I know this was like a quick and dirty version of it, but there is a longer version there. I show you examples step by step, but just remember the few basic things. 20 is your maximum, 3% chance of mutation. It increases 2 per stat mutation, and on top of that, it's a +1 per mutation on the counter every time you get a mutation. So, anyways, I would suggest you have one alpha breeder male and all the others are your females, but it's up to you. Alright, hopefully this video helps, and teach out.